This is a new camera and it is way too fancy for what I do. I did not like Joker. This is not news. And you all made it abundantly clear how much you don't like me for not liking this movie. But this is a movie that an overwhelming number of people do seem to enjoy. Somehow. And not only that, it is the most successful R-rated movie of all time. And if the rumors are to be believed, then we're going to be getting more movies like this. Either a direct sequel to Joker or a similar film featuring another DC supervillain that's grim, dark, realistic, and rated R. In that case, then there really is no point in me sulking in my basement about a movie I didn't like getting a sequel. I mean, I didn't like Resident Evil and they wound up making 6 bad sequels out of that movie. So why not let bygones be bygones and get in on the fun? Speculate as to what a follow-up to Joker might actually look like. Because I know when I've been beat. And if this is the world we're going to be living in, might as well get used to it. Put a smile on your face because that's life and all that jazz. Nope, not keeping that. Nope, gotta wipe that off. So a sequel to Todd Phillips' Joker isn't exactly that radical of an idea. Even before the movie came out, there was all this talk that there could possibly be a sequel to this particular movie, or at the very least, a similar film in this particular sub-series, i.e., unconventional DC films. And Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix have been pretty open about the fact that they have been talking about new stories they can tell with this interpretation of the Joker, but for the most part, that's all it's really been. Just talking. But of course, since Joker's release and incredible box office return, the idea of a follow-up to this movie became a much more plausible one. It got a little bit confusing last week when Hollywood Reporter announced that there was going to be a direct sequel to Todd Phillips' Joker, only for Deadline to come out almost immediately and say, no, nobody's talking about that. Hell, Todd Phillips had to basically come out and say that there are no plans to do a sequel to Joker and basically asked us all to stop talking about it. Of course, this hasn't stopped anybody from talking about it, and now everybody's running wild with ideas and rumors and speculation as to what Warner Brothers could possibly do to follow up this film. Could we get a direct sequel to Joker? Could we get another film about a famous DC supervillain told from a more serious and mature perspective? Another type of film in this mythical DC Black Label line of movies. Speaking of which, I don't think the DC Black Label applies to films. Like, I'm not trying to troll or anything. I cannot find any record of anybody from Warner Brothers or DC specifically saying that Joker and similar films like it are gonna go under the DC Black Label banner. From all I can find, DC Black Label is strictly for comics. If I'm wrong, please let me know down below in the comments. I'm sure you'll be more than happy to tell me I'm wrong. Cite your sources. So how exactly does one follow up a movie like Joker? Well, let's start with the idea that Warner Brothers and DC would want to do a direct sequel to it, continue the story of Arthur Fleck and his merry band of misfits. On paper, this seems like a logical step. I mean, after all, Joker again made a lot of money at the box office, and people do seem to really like this interpretation of the character. Not only that, but in the past, it's been proven that Joker is pretty easy to serialize. I mean, he's been serialized constantly in the comics and in cartoons and in other medium over the years. So it stands to reason that they would follow up on this character directly, just like they would do any other superhero movie. The problem is that Joker isn't like any other superhero movie. And if you saw the film, then you would know that it wasn't exactly designed to be followed up on. At the end of the film, Arthur Fleck gets locked up in Arkham Asylum, completing his transition from misunderstood loner to remorseless psychopath, and along the way inspires a horrific crime wave that sweeps the city. His arc is more or less complete. The movie showed us what happens when you take a mentally ill loner and cross him with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash. There really is nowhere else for this version of the character to go, really. Joker is the story about one man going insane and how his insanity can spread across a city like a virus. It was designed to not only make you question what the protagonist was doing, but what you, the audience, were seeing on screen. Was what's happening on screen real or just a figment of Arthur's psychosis? Were the actions that he was doing right or reprehensible? These sort of things naturally get answered in a sequel, but to do that, it would pretty much negate everything the filmmakers were trying to do in the original. People say I don't get this movie.
I get it.
You gotta work with me on this.
It ain't making me laugh, but I get it.
So how do you then follow up Joker? Well, you could have him escape from Arkham Asylum and just cause more havoc and chaos throughout the city, but then he doesn't really grow and develop as a character. He just stays as he is throughout. You can do something like he gets better and starts to reform himself only to slowly slip back into madness, but then you're sort of just repeating the first movie again. Honestly, the most logical sequel idea for Joker would just be to do a Batman movie. Seriously, at the end of Joker, we do see Thomas and Martha Wayne get shot and killed in front of young Bruce, surprise, surprise. The killer was a person who was inspired to do these acts because of the Joker. So really, it just makes the most sense to continue that thread. Maybe pick up the story 10, 15 years later, where Bruce is a little bit more grown up and he's about ready to start his war on crime. Show us a Gotham City post-Joker riots. Joaquin Phoenix could cameo as an older Arthur Fleck in this movie. Maybe he's still locked up in Arkham Asylum, but starts to learn about this Bat vigilante on the news. Kind of like how the Joker spends the first issue of The Dark Knight Returns, locked up in Arkham, sort of comatose until the return of Batman snaps him back. But then, of course, you do run the risk of making an actual superhero film, God forbid, and I doubt Todd Phillips has any interest in doing that. Besides, Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson are already making their own Batman movie scheduled to come out in 2021, and I doubt Warner Brothers would want to have two competing Batman films coming out within a year of each other. Also, it wouldn't be about Arthur Fleck, it would just be tangentially related to Arthur Fleck, and by that point, why not just do a movie with a completely different character? Don't bother doing a direct sequel, just another similar film with a different character. But then the question becomes, which character? If you want to follow the formula of Joker, then that means we should probably pick a villain, but it has to be a villain that you can easily make a movie out of that costs less than $100 million. But also too, you run into the problem that not many comic book supervillains have the same sort of cultural relevance as the Joker does, and the ones that do are actually still Batman villains, because Batman does have, honestly, the best and most well-known rogues gallery in all of comics. Now, a character like, say, Catwoman or the Riddler could easily be put into a movie like Joker, i.e. made for not a lot of money and in a more grim, realistic setting, but you could also tweak some of the more fantastical villains like Mr. Freeze or Ra's al Ghul to try and fit this mold. They'd be different, but it could still work in a certain respect. But then again, a Batman villain already got his own solo movie and it was the biggest Batman villain. So not only would it feel repetitive to do another Batman villain, but after the Joker, where else do you go? Also, Catwoman already got her own movie and I don't have to keep reminding you how bad that was. Besides, Matt Reeves' movie looks like it's going to contain half of Batman's rogues gallery to begin with. So maybe it's time that we left Gotham City for a different superhero. Maybe take a trip over to Metropolis, into Superman's world, and focus on his biggest villain, Lex Luthor. It is already being rumored that Warner Brothers wants to do a Joker-style movie with Lex, a more dark, gritty, realistic take on the character, but instead of a Taxi Driver riff, this one will be more of a political thriller with Lex trying to work his way into the White House. Now, this actually sounds like a great idea. It honestly is more appealing to me than the idea of a solo Joker film. Lex Luthor is a character with a very fascinating origin and an actual backstory, not a purposely ambiguous one. He's been reinvented a lot as a mad scientist, a corrupt businessman, the greatest criminal mind of our time. There's a lot you can do with this character. I'm, of course, quite partial to businessman Lex. I mean, I am a post-Crisis on Infinite Earths kid, and I did grow up with Superman the Animated Series, so Clancy Brown Lex is my jam.
The price goes up.
Unacceptable. If you can't handle some mental case in a fright mask, our deal is off. Keep in mind, this is your last chance.
And I think a movie that explores why Lex hates Superman so much would be awesome. It's an idea that hasn't really been touched upon in any of the previous live-action films. Except for Batman vs. Superman. I think Lex says he hates Superman because of his dad, or God. It's not clear. And there is precedent for a story like this in the comics. I've touched briefly before about Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo's Lex Luthor Man of Steel, also sometimes known as just Luthor, but it's a great look at the character behind all of the supervillainy. Something along these lines would be really rad to see. It doesn't have to be a direct one-to-one adaptation, but it should at least touch upon similar themes and ideas. A brilliant and successful but very petty man getting overshadowed by somebody who's more fantastic than he is. Now, part of the appeal of Joker for some people was the fact that it was a Joker movie without Batman in it. If you are going to do a Joker-style movie about Lex Luthor, does that mean you shouldn't include Superman in it? Well, I think you kind of have to. Lex becomes a hateful character because of his jealousy towards Superman. You could try to do something where Lex gets jealous of somebody else, but I think that would lessen the impact. Even if you wanted to make a more grounded, realistic movie, you could still get away with putting Superman in it. In the Luthor comic, Superman is in the story, but he's not a main character. He's often in the background and is often shown just in the abstract, either like his silhouette or his emblem appears. You could do that in the movie and it would have just as big of an impact. Hell, you wouldn't even have to hire a named actor to play Superman. Just get a stuntman and put him in the suit and shoot him that way. Kind of like they did in the end credits for Shazam. Plus, if you do add Superman, then you can recreate this scene from the animated series. They kind of recreated it in the comic as well, and it's just an awesome scene. I mean, why wouldn't you want to recreate this? The only problem I can see with a movie like this, and it'd be way too easy and way too tempting for the filmmakers to want to do this, is to turn the movie about Lex Luthor into a thinly veiled portrayal of this guy. And I don't want to see that. I don't think anybody really wants to see that. I mean, if we're being honest, it's probably not going to be as clever or as important as the filmmakers think it's going to be, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to change anybody's opinion on the subject matter. And honestly, it'd be more shocking and surprising if they didn't do that. But I digress. There are a lot of different routes that DC and Warner Brothers could take if they wanted to do a more grimdark, realistic portrayal of a supervillain like what they did with Joker. But imagine for a minute that they didn't go realistic, if they did a supervillain movie that embraced the super powerful elements of the comics. And I'm not talking about Black Adam because that's apparently not a supervillain movie anymore. Thanks, Dwayne. No, I mean, imagine if Ava DuVernay's upcoming New Gods movie was really a Darkseid movie about how he rules Apocalypse with an iron fist. That could be something. Or imagine a movie starring the Flash's Rogues Gallery as a group of down-on-their-luck supervillains who are trying to pull off one more successful heist. In a way, you're limiting yourself by going the more realistic route. By embracing the fantastical, you open up the door for a wide array of possibilities. And if you still want to go the R-rated route like Joker, then by being fantastical, you can just truly let your imagination run wild. You can get away with a lot of crazy, dark, and depraved stuff, shockingly violent things that go completely over the top because it's fantastical. Kind of like what Blade does.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
But that's just what I think. What do you think? How do you think they should follow up Joker? Would you want to see a direct sequel, or do you think that Warner Brothers should take this formula and apply it to a different character? Let me know down below or anywhere on the internet. Man, now I really psyched myself up for a Lex Luthor movie. Kind of hope they make it now. In the meantime, I guess I'll just read this. And I'll put an Amazon link in the description so you can read it as well if you want to. And along with some other comics featuring supervillains that might work really well on the big screen, with or without the grimdark Joker treatment. And of course, don't forget that we have new videos every Tuesday and Wednesday on this channel, with Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern being Wulff Den Live. So subscribe to see all of that. Like this video and share it with a friend who has their own crazy ass ideas for Joker 2 Electric Boogaloo. They should totally call the sequel that. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.